Hello, Year 9. Today we are going to be starting a new topic. The title of the topic is Equations. Today we're going to be talking about what an equation is and how we can go about solving an equation. And through this topic we'll be looking at different techniques and different methods for building up to solving more difficult equations. Okay, before we start, let's just get our brains awake. I've got a little starter activity for you, Year 9. It says, what values fill the boxes to make the calculations correct? So all I would like you to do is look at these 8 calculations and think, what number is going to go in the box? What number makes those calculations correct? So pause the video here, because I'm about to go through the answers. So let's see how you've got on with these. 3 plus something equals 7. Well, that would be 3 plus 4 is 7. 4 times something is 20. Well, that would be 4 times 5. 12 take away something leaves 5. Well, if I take away 7 from 12, that would leave 5. Something times 6 is 18. 3 times 6 is 18. Something add 12 is 25. Well, if I add 12 onto 13, I get 25. Something divided by 3 is 5. If I split 15 into 3, the answer is 5. 35 divided by something is 7. That is 35 divided by 5. And finally, some number take away 6 equals 18. Well, if I subtract 6 from 24, the answer is 18. So why did we start with that activity? Well, in essence, what you have done here is you have actually solved equations. A calculation with a box is very, very similar to an equation. The only difference between an equation and what you have done here is we wouldn't have that little square box. What we would have an equation instead is a letter. So if you've managed to print out a copy of my sheet, that is great. But remember, printing out these sheets isn't essential. I'm just trying to save you some time. So an equation is a calculation with a letter. The goal is to work out what value of the letter makes the statement correct. So all of these 8 examples are different types of equation. And we've done a little bit of work on algebra earlier in the year. And all I want you to think about when you see one of these statements, 6 plus a equals 8, is just think of it as we did a moment ago. Think of it as if there was a box there instead. And what value would make that statement true? 6 plus something is 8. It would have to be 2. So immediately I know the answer to this equation is a equals 2, because 6 add 2 equals 8. Now, do we remember what this bit of algebra means in my second example? 3b. Now remember, that is the way that we write 3 times b. So if I'm going to write this question out with a box, what I'm needing to think about is 3 times what equals 18. How many 3's are 18? If you count up in your 3 times table, you will realise it is 6. So in this example, b equals 6. And if you're interested in my objective when I've said be able to solve a one-step equation using inspection, inspection just means looking at it and figuring it out. There's not a great deal of maths going on, we're just thinking, what number do I put there for it to make sense, for it to be correct? So let's look at the next one. Instead of writing 20 take away C, I'm going to write 20 take away a square box. And the answer is 17. So what statement or what value makes that statement true? 20 take away 3 is 17. So C equals 3. And this is very much how I would like you to set out your work today. You're going to write out your equation. You're going to write out a line with a box where the letter is. And then you're going to think about, well, what does that box have to be? In other words, what is the value of the letter? Let's move on to the next one. I've got D, so something plus 11 equals 18. What do I add 11 to get 18? That is 7. So D equals 7. I've now got W, take away 5 is 19. What do I subtract 5 from to get 19? The answer to that one is 24. So W is 24. Now, one or two of you might be sat there thinking, I know a different way of doing these, sir. And I'm not going to talk about that today. So if you think you've spotted a different way that you can get to these answers, that is great, because that might be something I talk about next lesson. So do see if you can see any other patterns, because that might be quite useful. Maybe you could even tell me in the Ask the Teacher channel if you think you've spotted a different way of doing this. Let's look at 3 more examples. I've got X divided by 4 equals 5. Well, what divided by 4 is 5? It is 20. So X equals 20. Let's look at this next one. I've got Y over 3. Now again, I hope some of you remember that this is just another way of writing divide. In fact, this is the more typical way that we would write divide in algebra. We wouldn't use the divide by symbol like in the last question. We'd use this like fraction line, which also means divide. So we've got something divided by 3 equals 7. And I'm sure you know what this number is. I've been wanting to do this number for a while. Yes, it's 21. So Y equals 21. Final example, 6Z. So remember again, just like up here, 6Z means 6 times Z. So I'll do a little box. And that equals 42. So 6 times what is 42? It would be 7. So Z equals 7. So let's have a quick look at the questions that I'm going to ask you to do. Now, these questions are accessible via my PowerPoint, so you might want to go back to the instructions and load up that. Question 1 is just adds and takeaways. So equations with adds and takeaways. Question 2, it's very much similar, but the numbers are a little bit bigger. So that might involve a little bit more thought. And question 3, we've got some multiplications and divisions. So very similar to the examples that I've done today. If you get a little bit stuck, look back at those examples. Do remember to find 5 minutes at the end to mark your work. Mark your work with a different coloured pen, please. And obviously, when you come to upload some work at the end of the week, it would be great to see this bit of work having already been marked, and then I can give you some feedback on any questions that you've struggled with. As always, you can ask any questions in the Ask the Teacher channel.